Alright, it's the Hawk. Dustin Rhodes is a guy who's had a great career resurgence in AEW. He truly is a wrestler who's had the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. 55-year-old Dustin is still not retired, and the former Goldust expects to wrestle for at least the next few years. And today on Ring of the Hawk Season 6, we'll be looking at one of those many lows. Alright, it's TNA Dustin Rhodes. How much does he regret this? Probably loads. Now Dustin has actually had two separate spells with TNA. I have already covered his time as the fat man in the big black bin bag Black Rain, but this is something completely different from 2004. 2004 was still a really tough time for Dustin. His family relationships had completely broken down and his drug use had gotten out of control, and he was dirt poor. He consumed 50 to 70 perks, half a gallon of vodka a day, and whatever James Mitchell was on. It looks like it was probably worse in his second spell in TNA, as he could barely move at that point, but this is still one of the unhappy periods of his life. Despite the dark times in his personal life, he would be fortunate in other ways, as his dad Dusty Rhodes was in a position of power within TNA, and he got Dustin a job for $1,000 a show. That doesn't sound like much, but for someone who had burnt a lot of bridges and had well-known issues, this was about the best he was going to get. Match 1, NWA Heavyweight Title Match. Eric Watts has been kidnapped by a wild Slapnuts appears. Come on, G!
Jeff Jarrett!
But fortunately, Dustin Rhodes makes the save, and it's turned into a match. Dustin beats Slapnuts into the crowd. I guess his catchphrase is going to be "Nuff said." Slapnuts is beaten around the building and along a balcony with teasers that Slapnuts is going to be thrown to his death. This really isn't the most exciting match. Finally, something happens with Dustin hitting a DDT on the ramp and also on top of a chair. Dustin's closing in on a victory, so Jarrett's red shirt Burks attack him. Don't worry, they're jobbers and Dustin can deal with them. Jarrett's back in the ring now and Dustin hits the drop down throat thrust. He also hits a bulldog for a 2 count. Jarrett tries to make a comeback, but he's really struggling as he's snap slammed. Abyss also interferes for Slapnuts. Whilst that's going on, AJ Styles interferes and frog splashes Jeff Jarrett. That's just a 2 count though. Moments later, there's a ref bump. Dustin sets Jarrett up for shattered dreams and he crushes his nutsack. His happiness is short-lived as the Naturals interfere with Powder and a steel chair shot. Jeff Jarrett will somehow win this match without hitting a single move. This wasn't exactly the greatest match ever, but I don't think Dustin did too badly in there. It's a D. Match 2, tag team match, the Red Shirt Security. Yeah, this is the closest these scrubs are going to get getting their own episode of Ring of the Hawk. They take on El Leon and Dustin Rhodes. Dustin is looking quite skinny in there. Better than Fat Rain though, I guess. He starts out with Joe E. Legend and he smacks him down before tagging out. He's back soon after hitting an atomic drop. Northcutt takes a cheap shot on him, but it doesn't stop Dustin, who launches Legend out of the ring. Eventually the double teaming gets too much for Dustin. Legend hits him with a butterfly suplex for a 2 count. Northcutt scoop slams him and hits a middle rope elbow drop for another 2. He desperately scrambles to tag his partner and throws a jobber overhead, but the ref doesn't see this tag. Northcutt traps him in a sleeper. He escapes that and does a backslide, but once again it feels a bit like a handicap match. Northcutt gives him a South spine buster now, with Legend immediately leg dropping him, somehow just a 2. Dustin eventually hits a suplex but still can't tag out. He manages to dodge a Northcutt dropkick and rolls him up for a 2 and quickly spinebusters him as well. He finally tags out. El Leon wins this match with a Uranagi. The Naturals once again throw powder in Dustin's face. I think they were trying to help him revert back to his 7 gimmick. Dustin took a lot of damage here. He got the crowd behind him and it felt better than the first match, so it's a C. But Rhodes would quickly disappear from TNA for 10 months. Match 3, Johnny Swinger vs Dustin Rhodes. They brag about this massive free agent signing who is a former Intercontinental Champion. Swinger desperately chokes him out in the corner and spits on him. Dustin flips and spears him down. Rhodes hits a drop kick and an arm drag. Now he gets him in the corner and hits 10 punches followed by a dusty elbow. Dustin misses a crossbody and crashes out of the ring. Swinger drops him on a fence and returns to the ring. He catapults Dustin into the ropes and locks on a sleeper. Rhodes sneaks out of that with a backslide before getting smacked back down. Rhodes now tries desperately to throw clotheslines but gets crossbodied for a 2 count. Swinger gets another 2 on a leg sweep. Then, just out of nowhere, Dustin hits the curtain call for the 3. There was no interference here, so why did this massive free agent struggle so hard against Johnny Swinger? This match was 80% Swinger, I don't know, a D. Dustin reveals that he is in TNA to capture the World Heavyweight title, just like his daddy. Match 4, Marco Cordova? Never heard of him, and he takes on Dustin, who truly couldn't be further from the world title at this point. Kid Cash immediately interferes from the outside, but it's not going to stop Dustin. Dustin hits 10 punches and the dusty elbow. The atomic drop, the drop down throat thrust, and the curtain call for the 3. Oh, I am sorry, Mike Tenay corrects me. He's calling it the Lonestar State of Mind. Shut up or I'll smack you one. The Hawk would never call it that tonight. I've always known it as the curtain call. Shove it, it's an S. Match 5, tag match. Kid Cash and Dallas, the future Lance Archer, and they take on Dustin Rhodes and Jeff Hardy. No one better steal Jeff's finisher tonight. He ain't watching, he's taking part. Dustin gets us started with a back body drop on Cash. He boxes him all over the ring until Cash dumps in his nappy of fear and tags his partner. Dustin hits his partner with 10 punches in the corner on the elbow. Kid Cash causes a distraction and Dallas is able to hit a big boot. Dustin continues struggling as he's double teamed with a high-low. Dallas climbs up to the top rope and Cash climbs up on his shoulders. He flies with a botch moonsault which misses. Dustin dodges Cash's follow-up drop kick and he almost rolls him up. Cash kicks out but soon regrets that as Dustin side slams him. The tag is made to Jeffrey Hardy. The match ends soon after Dustin assists Jeff with a poetry emotion. He hits the Bulldog on Dallas and Jeff Hardy beats him with a Swanton Bomb. Pretty fun match, it's a C. Match 6, Chris Candido vs Dustin Rhodes. Nothing's really happening until Dustin hits a back body drop on the outside. He brings him back to the ring and dodges Candido in the corner and squashes him. Dustin wins this one with a Bulldog. Hard not to feel a bit sorry for Candido here in this 1-minute squash match. It's an S. Match 7, Final Resolution 2005, Kid Cash takes on Dustin Rhodes. Dustin quickly throws Cash backwards and smacks him down. The smacks keep coming as he smacks him out of the ring. Cash runs him around the ring to gain the advantage. That doesn't last long though as Dustin crushes his face and catapults him against the ropes and drops him onto his knees. Rhodes climbs to the top for the first time in TNA but Cash makes him fall in his nutsack. Dustin blocks his superplex and he goes back to throwing punches. Kid Cash fakes a knee injury which distracts the referee enough for Cash to smack Dustin in his nutsack. Kid Cash takes his legs further with a basement dropkick. Cash ends up working on his legs for a very long time. He stomps, punches and dives on Dustin's legs with a frog splash. Kid Cash eventually applies a figure 4, but Dustin survives the hold for a very long time, eventually rolling it over until Cash releases it. Dustin soon finds himself pulled back to the mat with a sleeper hold. Dustin again survives and tries to make his comeback, but his knee collapses during an atomic drop. Cash looks to finish him with a crossbody, which Dustin rolls over for a 2 count. Cash is starting to panic now as Dustin dodges his kick and almost hits the curtain call, however Cash survives and kicks him down. Kid Cash starts shoving the referee, which costs him as he turns around into a Dustin Bulldog for the 3. I enjoyed this one, and it was booked well considering it was a tiny heel versus a massive face. Dustin actually had me believing that Kid Cash could beat him. It's a B. Match 8, tag match, The Naturals versus a cheap, depressed version of Shane Douglas and Dustin Rhodes. No mention is made of this being the epic conclusion to all the powder they have thrown around the Impact Zone a year earlier. Dustin arm drags, atomic drops and clotheslines Chase Stevens and tags out. Depressed Shane Douglas has 2 broken fingers, so this match doesn't go well for him. Dustin can't help him because known dick Raven attacks Dustin Rhodes. The Naturals beat Chase Stevens with the natural selection. It's an S. Match 9, 6-man tag, Kid Cash, Dallas and known dick Raven versus Dustin Rhodes and America's Most Wanted. It's a team of cowboys. Strange match though, Dustin's hardly involved. When he does get the tag, he makes them do the JOB. He takes out Cash and Raven with drop down double throat thrusts. Rhodes dodges the Raven punches and clotheslines him and hits an atomic drop. He fights off a Raven effect and beats him with a simple Bulldog. That was far too easy for Dustin. It's a D, and it begs the question, why would anyone possibly want to watch this next match? Match 10, Against All Odds 2005, Raven vs Dustin Rhodes. Doesn't seem like his dream to capture the heavyweight title is going so well. Raven starts out spitting on Dustin. Dustin catches a lot of strays in this company. Dustin spears him down with rage and unleashes fists of fury. The character they're trying to present for Dustin is that he's a caring man who's desperately trying to help the younger wrestlers, whilst Raven is an own dick and he only cares about himself. I wonder how much help Dustin was actually giving them due to the state of his mind at the time. Raven starts dominating with his punch combo. Raven works on Dustin's leg and keeps cutting off his comebacks. The Raven ankle lock isn't quite as effective as Peak Angle's one. Dustin eventually escapes that and he hits 10 punches in the corner without an elbow this time. Raven manages to fight off the Bulldog, but he can't avoid a clothesline. God, this match is slow. Dustin spends 10 seconds deciding if he should climb to the top or not. His Gorman out costs him as Raven kicks him down. Dustin fights off his superplex and he tries a terrible looking dive which Raven blocks. He's not done though and he escapes the Raven effect and hits a super kick. Raven starts barging into his gut and goes back to doing the ankle lock. Dustin eventually sends him out to the floor. Raven once again barges him in the gut and scrambles back into the ring. This crowd sound annoyed as they start exchanging ankle locks. Raven sends him into the turnbuckles now and rolls up Dustin with his feet on the ropes. Raven wins? Raven is a known dick and a bad loser and he attacks Dustin. Raven then randomly locks Dustin in a straitjacket. This goes on forever as Raven wants to belt Dustin. He fights for a bit with a depressed Shane Douglas and goes back to the belting. God, I hated that match. Slow, clunky, repetitive and boring. It's an S. Does this mean this feud is actually continuing? Match 11, 6-man tag, Team Canada, Bobby Roode, EY and Petey Williams versus Dustin Rhodes and America's Most Wanted. Dustin seems to be enjoying this one as he gives Petey multiple atomic drops. Why is Dustin so obsessed with damaging people's nutsacks? Remember on the old SmackDown games when they had the body damage indicators? Well, they needed a nutsack body part and Dustin would sure leave it red and raw. Dustin does his drop toe hold thrust punch which knocks EY over the top rope. Scott D'Amore tries to interfere but gets a back body drop from Dustin. The ref is rightfully distracted by all of this as Johnny Devine hits Dustin with a hockey stick in the nutsack. The ref somehow misses all of this chaos and Bobby Roode beats Chris Harris with the Northern Lariat. I was enjoying this one but it was too short, it's a D. Match 12, Eric Young versus Dustin Rhodes. Rhodes just seems to have more fun against the smaller guys who will bump around the ring for him, and it does make for a better match. Young grabs his eyelash and Scott D'Amore on the dance floor helps out too. Young chokes him out and screams, "Oh Canada." Finally, Dustin blocks an EY dive with the atomic drop. Dustin hits some clotheslines and then smacks EY in the corner and boots him from behind. Dustin attempts a superplex now and he nails it with Scott D'Amore running interference again to stop the pin from going down. Dustin hits D'Amore with a bulldog as bodies are flying everywhere. The ref isn't distracted for once though and he's taken his meds and he's on site to count the 3 for a snap slam. I don't know, a C, it was basic stuff but fun stuff. But do you know what probably won't be fun? The next match. Match 13, Destination X 2005, Bull Rope match, Raven versus Dustin Rhodes. CM Punk, MJF, this match is not. And I didn't really like that much, but I know a lot of you love that one, so who am I to argue with you? I'm just a stupid bird with a Hulk Hogan face smashed on top of it. Anyway, Dustin gets us started dragging Raven into the Ultimate X structure. He misses his cowbell shot and Raven wakes up and climbs to the apron. Bad choice as Rhodes yanks him off and into a fence. Dustin uses the cowbell and drags Raven around the ring. He keeps pulling funny faces at him. Dustin Rhodes makes Raven look incredibly small. Dustin starts choking him out while sat on the top rope. They wait for ages for Raven to inevitably yank him off the top rope. The crowd chant Raven, but I don't think that's what's supposed to be happening. Raven has a chair now and he drives Dustin's face into it. Raven misses his next dive though and Dustin starts pulling the cowbell and the rope into Raven's nutsack. Classic. More nutsack related offense follows. Dustin waves the cowbell at the crowd happily and they boo in response. He can't hit the cowbell bulldog. Raven thinks about the chair again, but this time Dustin punches the chair and that seems to hurt him more than Raven. It doesn't really make sense, but a second later Dustin hits the bulldog on the chair and it's over. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it was still very slow and underwhelming. The lack of any big bumps really hurts matches like this. It's a D. Match 14, 6-man tag, Candido and the Naturals take on America's Most Wanted and Dustin Rhodes. Candido fares a bit better than last time he met Dustin. The crowd are noticeably chanting Dustin sucks. Candido suplexes him. He eventually dodges Candido's dropkick and gets a 2 on a roll-up. Dustin nails the atomic drop and a lariat and he tags out. Rhodes returns to the match later with America's Most Wanted helping him hit a powerbomb on Candido. Andy Douglas is beaten by the death sentence. Yeah, not really a great showing from Dustin here and he looked exhausted and kept collapsing and the crowd didn't seem to like him very much. It's an S. Match 15, tag match. Wow. Dustin couldn't possibly slip any lower than this match. The master of the cab driver slam, David Young and Lex Lovett, I sure didn't love it, take on Dustin Rhodes and depressed Shane Douglas. Dustin drops the cabbie on his coin purse and he has to tag out. Moments later the cabbie switches to card only as he gets a Shattered Dreams. He is finished. Depressed Shane Douglas gets isolated. Dustin just says screw it and starts hitting anything that moves. Depressed Shane Douglas isn't so depressed after he wins with a Hurricanrana pin. It's an S. How did Dustin slip so low? Match 16, final match, Lockdown 2005. What? A 2 out of 3 Prince of Darkness steel cage match. Whatever the hell that is. Dustin starts out with fire and hits a back body drop. Roode tries to use the referee as a human shield, and then he just rolls Dustin up with his feet on the ropes. Nobody has any idea if it was a 2 or a 3, but apparently it was a 3. Wow, Bobby Roode pinned Dustin in about 30 seconds. What a jobber. The ref tries to stop Dustin from hitting Shattered Dreams, but he does it anyway. Roode and Dustin both head to the top rope. Dustin hits a superplex. Bobby Roode almost puts his back out trying to powerbomb Dustin, who slingshots Roode into the cage. Just a 2 count. Now Dustin catches Roode with a snap slam for another 2. Roode fights off his bulldog, but Dustin boots him in the nutsack. Bobby Roode must have nuts of steel as Dustin still can't hit the bulldog. Roode instead nails a spear in the corner. He hits a bat suplex now for another 2. Bobby Roode is fully on top, but Dustin manages a small package for a 2. Roode hits a middle rope knee drop. Finally now, Dustin fights off a sleeper of an electric chair drop and is possibly the most exciting move in this entire video. Roode reverses the curtain call and rushes Rhodes with the Northern Lariat, but he takes too long to make the cover, so it's just a 2. They both climb up the cage again. Dustin fights off a German and goes for a top rope bulldog, and he connects. There it is, that's the 3. Now the match must turn into a blindfold match, because everybody loves matches where the wrestlers can't even see each other. TNA does not have a good history of these sort of matches. They do the ships passing in the night spot, they both stumble around for ages like morons, the crowd sound restless. Jesus, what a match to finish this video on. They finally back into each other, but nothing happens. Roode smacks out the referee by mistake. This is a ref bump. D'Amore throws a chair into the dance floor and he also climbs into the ring, but Roode hits his own guy with the chair by mistake. Bobby Roode comically pins D'Amore but then realises he's too fat to be Dustin. Dustin has the chair now. He backs into Roode and drills him in the head with the chair, and that's how the match goes down. It's the 3. I was surprised that nobody removed their hood when the ref got bumped. This match wasn't actually as bad as history will tell you. The hooded part didn't really last that long and the wrestling was pretty good for the rest of it. It's a B from the Hawk. Game over. Rhodes parted ways with TNA Wrestling after being arrested on April 25, 2005 and charged with misdemeanor battery following a domestic incident with his girlfriend at Hard Rock in Orlando, Florida. He would return to the organisation 2 years later as the split personality moron Black Rain, where he would team up with Relic, that's killer spelled backwards. And if you are interested in that video, I already made it years ago, so go watch that now. We've got to shove Dustin Rhodes a final grade for Ring of the Hawk Season 6. I have to say, it wasn't actually as bad as I expected. He seemed to be in relatively good shape. He was nowhere near as lazy as he was when he was Black Rain, and there were some pretty decent mid-card matches here. Now that being said, Dustin came into TNA said he was going to be the world champion, a goal that he completely failed at achieving. His character was pretty bland, and the crowd didn't really seem to be that bothered about him. Funny that a guy who ended up portraying Goldust could possibly be boring. This wasn't that bad though, it was more in the forgettable territory. If Dustin had been of sound mind at the time, he probably would have got closer to the world title, and it's things like that that we have to consider when giving him a Ring of the Hawk contract. So I think the fairest grade is a D, and if you don't agree with that, I'll grab you and collect my little bitch fee.